I'm Susan Odell and welcome to the Foodell Kitchen. You're going to use flour a lot when you cook, and there's a few different kinds that I want to have a look at today. We're going to talk about wheat flour. Although any edible grain can be ground down and sifted to become flour, you'll see spelt flour and quinoa flour and barley flour and rice flour and all different kinds of things. And there is a use for those in a lot of other different dishes, but today we're just going to talk about good old wheat flour and the basic kinds that you're going to use every day. I have 4 flours here, and 3 of them look remarkably similar. It's hard to tell the difference, and I don't even know if I could tell the difference even if I touched them. These are basic white flours. They come from durum wheat, or a mixture of durum wheat and a softer wheat. What I have is cake flour or pastry flour. I have all-purpose flour, and I have bread flour. This over here is whole wheat flour, and you can tell the difference because it's darker. It's wheatier. Let's first look at our 3 white flours. First of all, our all-purpose flour is what you'll have most likely in your pantry. All-purpose flour is a combination of a hard wheat flour, a high gluten content flour, and a soft wheat flour or a low gluten content flour. Now we go to these two, and guess what? If you mix these two together, basically you come up with all-purpose flour. This is pastry flour. You're going to use it in things that require something a little more delicate. It's, well, hence the name. Pastry, you're going to use it in your angel food cakes, maybe when you're making a delicate, delicious, flaky crust. It might call for baking flour, but usually it's called pastry flour or cake flour. And the reason it has a low gluten content, it comes from a different kind of wheat, but you don't want that protein, you don't want those glutens to start working and become tough. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got bread flour. That has a high gluten content, and so when you start to work it and knead it and make it into bread, it reacts and it becomes very stretchy and clingy, and it will rise when you add the yeast to it. These are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum depending on what it is you're making, and your recipe will usually tell you if a specific flour is called for. If not, you can rest assured that you're going to use all-purpose. Now just a quick word on all-purpose flour. You'll see a few different things. You'll see bleached, you'll see unbleached, you'll see enriched flour, you'll see stone ground, and you probably won't see the name steel ground, but most of our flour is actually steel ground. First of all, on the bleaching. Unbleached flour is naturally bleached by the sun. Bleached flour, if it's not labeled unbleached, it probably is bleached, uses a chemical process just to make it more white. You really don't need that, so stick with the unbleached variety. Now, steel ground versus stone ground. Stone ground is an older method. It uses stones to grind up the wheat, and it actually leaves some of the nutrients intact. Normally, flour these days is steel ground, which just beats the crap out of the flour, essentially, and the heat that comes from that process removes just about any remaining nutrients there are. So if you can, look for unbleached stone ground flour. Now on our whole wheat flour, you can make whole wheat breads with this and a lot of nice things. You can also incorporate whole wheat into just about anything you make with regular flour. Use about 60% whole wheat in lieu of some of your white flour and see how that tastes. It might be a little too heavy. Whole wheat is going to make your resulting bread or cake or even cookies a little bit heavier and a little bit more dense. So maybe start with replacing, say, 40% of your white flour with wheat flour and see if you like it. The benefit of that is that you get the goodness of the whole grain. You get the germ, the bran, and the endosperm, which means you get more fiber, more protein, and more vitamins and minerals. One thing about white flour, I think I mentioned they might call it enriched. Because they've taken out that bran and the germ and most of the good stuff that's in wheat, the USDA government has required that white flour have things added back to it. Niacin, thiamine, riboflavin, and iron are all added back to white flour. You don't need to do that if you use whole wheat because it's already there, naturally. If you're going to be cooking a lot, which I know you are because you're watching this video, you're probably going to have all of these flours around the house because they all serve different purposes. Just be sure to keep them in an airtight container such as this one and label it. This is KA bread flour, being King Arthur bread flour. That's a brand. They make a good quality product, as does Bob's Red Mill. Check out his, especially if you've got gluten allergies. These are all gluten filled, but he makes some great different flours that don't have any gluten. And they're processed in a completely separate facility, so you'll be safe. Finally, with whole wheat flour, it tends to go rancid faster than regular flour because it still has that bran and germ, so there's a little bit more fat involved in the whole wheat. Keep it in your refrigerator if you have room. Bon appetit.
Introduction to flour.
Flour power.
Flour power, baby.